Big tech companies that are selling our attention, they just keep getting richer and richer and richer. Is there anything to do about it?
They're giving the people what they want, though, right? I don't blame them, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people who just said what I said are like, oh, we got to take these guys out, we got to tear them down. I don't agree with that, right? Like the only reason they exist is because people demand their existence.
Yeah. So what you need to do is more at the bottom level, educate people.
That's my whole thing, right? It's like I don't blame big tech. They're giving, like, I don't blame McDonald's. It's what you blaming McDonald's for obesity, right? It's like blame the people who eat at McDonald's. You know, it's like why it's like McDonald's is making, why are you eating there? You know, it's like if McDonald's is so evil, why do many millions of Americans, hundreds of millions of people worldwide, eat at McDonald's every day?
Over a billion served.
Over a billion served. You know, McDonald's has served almost a tenth of the world's population.
Yeah.
That's absurd, actually, when you think about it. Many times over, right? So, it's like McDonald's isn't the problem, right? It's like there are other problems that allow McDonald's to thrive. It's not McDonald's fault that they're giving people something that people themselves want, So, and it's like, well, this is a tangent, but, it applies to any industry. It's like, oh, well, better food's more expensive. Well, why is better food more expensive? Because nobody wants it. If everybody was trying to buy vegetables, I guarantee you there'd be an explosion of vegetable companies and the price of vegetables would get really cheap really quick. I guarantee it. That's how economics work. That's how our system works. Supply and demand. And but people don't want vegetables. So it's like, stop. it's like, and if you're like, well, it's biological that like salts and fats taste. Yes. Okay. Well, how do you overcome biology? Right? How do you overcome biology? Right? Education. It's only like the most powerful thing we have as the human animal is our brains. Right. The reason we're not just like scratching our asses like apes is because of this guy right here, the cognitive capacity that we have, right, over and against other creatures. But most people don't use it. Right. So they're like, fries, salt. Yes. Fat, salt. Yeah. McDonald's. Right. The ads on Facebook, it's like, Super Bowl. Because that, they're just following their biologically, evolutionarily programmed autonomic instincts, right? And that's their life, right? But I mean, with more education, you can say, oh, wait a minute. Maybe I shouldn't click on that ad. Maybe I shouldn't have the McDonald's, right? Yeah. Because you're able to actually self-regulate and impose higher order values and ideas on top of your own instinctual behavior.
I often have this tension, this inner tension between my mind and body, where my mind will be like, all right, this is what you do. This is boom, 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 boom. Just do it. And then my body's like, but what about if we, what about this over here? What if we don't do that?
You think vegetarians don't want you don't want a quarter pounder? Come on, they just say no. They say no to the quarter pounder, right?
But I think it's all about commitment. If you don't make that true commitment to I am only, I'm never going to eat meat.
The education I'm talking about.
What?
The education I'm talking about is not just knowledge, right? It's mental conditioning. It's cognitive conditioning, right? It's teaching your mind how to understand and control and have a dialogue with itself in a way that makes you a better human being. Right. It's not just knowledge. That's not, it's like education. And this is I guess, this is the Jesuit in me, right? It's cura personalis. It's care for the whole person. The best education isn't just about knowledge transfer. It's about forming responsible human beings and responsible, informed citizens. Right. Yeah. And this is the problem with our education system today. I think we've way over indexed on STEM. Right? I mean, STEM. The stuff that they're teaching kids in STEM classes in high schools today, or let's say at worst grade school, right, will be obsolete by the time they get into the workforce. It's like the rate of the advance of technology. It's like remember when, it's like, all right, I learned, it's like you're learning to type, but fine. Okay. You learn to type, but by the time you're out of school, everyone can type. It gives you no advantage whatsoever.
Yeah.
It's commoditized. So but teaching people how to learn and appreciate learning and knowledge and self-improvement, right? I mean, those are the types of skills, the autodidacticism, those are the type of skills that will allow you to thrive forever in any environment, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we don't teach
today. Within this COVID environment over the last year, that's shifted, and adaptability has become such a huge thing that people
we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
We talked about this before COVID, I think, right? Like the importance of adaptability, anti-fragility, agility, nimbleness of mind, right? But it's like, and then the crisis happens, and people are like, it's like you got to be agile. Well, you should have thought of that before the crisis.
Yeah, I've watched. I've read all of his books, and then I've watched a few interviews with Yuval Harari.
Oh yeah,
and like the two skills.
The now
I know at least one of the skills is like
now esteemed Hebrew University in Jerusalem historian with
yes,
Harari.
He wrote Sapiens, which is a huge book. Homo Deus is a really great one too. It talks about like people skills and your ability to navigate the future as more and more things are happening quickly, and there's going to be so much change throughout your entire life. And the education in 4 years or throughout high school or grade school, like you have to constantly be learning and willing to adapt your entire life, because it's the change and the speed in which technology is going. It's not going to stop. So you have to change yourself.
Yeah, I think everyone has to have that mindset. But again, that's something that by the time you're an adult, if you're trying to do that when you're an adult, that's hard. You need to start inculcating that mode of operation into children when they're younger.
Yeah, I think adults too, they get in their ways, and it's about the ego. It's like, no, I've been doing this for so long, or like
it is about ego. It's psychological path dependence, right? You become reliant on one way of being. It's comfortable. It's certain, right? It's evolutionarily, we're programmed to reduce ambiguity and uncertainty, right? To control our environment so we don't get, destroyed by the storm or eaten by the wildebeest. And we still try to do that in our own ways in our lives, in our careers. If I know, like, hey, this is who I am, this is what I'm good at, I'm comfortable with it, it works for me. Like, the old adage, right? Don't fix it if it ain't broke. I'm horrible with cliches. I don't like cliches, so I can never get cliches right. But if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, that's wrong. It's actually wrong. That is actually horrible advice. Horrible advice, right? Seriously, it's like, think about it. Innovation, improvement, innovation is antithetical to if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right?
Yeah.
It's like innovation happens when you create net new value that disrupts markets, industries, ways of operating and life as we know it, because it has brought something truly novel into existence, right? That's creating value for people. And does that mean that like what we had before wasn't good? No, it just means there's something better, right? I mean, it's like there was nothing wrong with the horse and buggy. There was nothing wrong with the horse and buggy. If everyone operated like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like, hey, we don't need to improve anything. Fine, right? It's like, hey, if you really think that way, then next time you get out of your car, sell your car, go get a horse, right? And I want to see you riding around on your horse. So, if you're consistent logically with that worldview, then sell your phone. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with what we had before computers. Get rid of your computer. It's like, hey, the Neanderthal, Homo erectus thought they were doing fine with animal skins. So, strip out of your mass-produced clothing and just like don animal skins. There was nothing wrong with that for those people either.
Isn't it crazy how like nothing is original? Everything is just added on, built upon, taken here, made it better over here.
It's cumulative. Yeah. But here's the thing though. There's a couple things though. Rate of accumulation, rate of increase, but then also like not all, like some cumulative, like some compounding is super linear, right? It's non-linear, it's super linear, it's exponential. So, you know, it's like, hey, yeah, it's like I created this new thing and it's derived from this old thing, but it's a spectrum. You can derive something from something that exists that's like incremental, or you can derive something from something that exists that's exponential, right? Where it's like, wow, that's so far, you know, it's like I evolved that so much that it's now like radically new, right? Radical innovation, disruptive innovation versus incremental innovation.
What would be a recent example of exponential?
Oh, that's a great question. Quantum computing is an exponential innovation. Fusion energy would be an exponential kind of revolutionary innovation, right? I mean, things like that, right? I mean, things that are like paradigm shifting, right? That like
How
fundamentally shift the paradigm.
how many of these revolutionary changes do you think you and I will experience in our lifetime?
Ooh, that's a good question. Here's a better one, or as good of a question is, how many have we experienced in our lifetime?
Ooh. What would surprise you in your lifetime?
Very little, honestly, and that's what is disappointing about life.
But that's what I mean, is like, we don't know what we don't know, Remington.
If I ever see something where I'm like, wow, I knew so little before that this just blows my mind, like I'd end it. I'd jump off a building or something, because I just don't expect that to happen. Like the probability of something that actually shocks me happening is like macro. What I, you know, like if an airplane like, you know, flew through my window over here, like that would be shocking, right? Like, but that's not what we're talking about, right? You know, it's like.
But what
like
you're saying is, you're in your head, you know that things are always going to be changing, and we're always going to be discovering things and accelerating. So you kind of expect.
Like this is like, you know, this is, you know, what I do for a living is to help other people think that way, right? So like I have to myself think that way, you know? So I'm always thinking of like, you know, but the problem is then nothing is ever satisfactory. People are like, oh, we got this great new technology. And I'm like, this sucks, you know?
That's why you just have to unplug sometimes. Just go for a walk and just admire the birds chirping.
I got hundreds of employees now. I can't go for a walk. Okay?